Manuel Noriega was kind of the Saddam Hussein of the day.
The fighting continues between American troops and soldiers loyal to Manuel Noriega.
Invading a sovereign power to depose its leader at the time was pretty extraordinary and unheard of.
Let's keep in mind of what a difficult and very large operation this is.
The invasion of Panama was the largest U.S. military action since the Vietnam War. Manuel Noriega was the dictator in Panama during the 1980s. He became dictator after another dictator died in a plane crash, Omar Torrijos. Noriega basically rose from that into power and seized more and more power. He had ostentatious mansions, exotic pets. He is known to have had a real fondness for whiskey, late-night parties with women, the life that you might recognize from a drug capo. He was clearly receiving lots of money from the cartels in order to allow drugs and money to flow through Panama. At the same time, he was informing on them. He began more or less an ally of the United States, helping provide intelligence and information on drug traffickers and helping to serve as kind of a listening post in Central America for any leftist political activity. He was, for many years, on the payroll of the CIA. He really kind of played both sides, which the United States, I think, for a time was okay with, but Noriega evolved more and more into a brutal dictator who was increasingly defiant to the U.S.
Esperaremos sentados en la ribera del canal a ver el cadáver de nuestro enemigo pasar.
He was targeting dissidents, cracking down on opposition in a very brutal, bloody way.
Noriega inició una ola de brutal represión atacando a los manifestantes y encarcelando a cientos de sus adversarios.
There were signs that his ties to the cartels were growing ever stronger. That made a lot of people in Washington very nervous to have essentially a drug trafficker as the leader of a nation so vital to the U.S. geopolitical interests. The triggering event was a confrontation in December 1989 when Panamanian troops shot and killed an unarmed American soldier, wounded another, and arrested and beat a third and threatened his wife.
Last night, I ordered U.S. military forces to Panama.
At that point, the Bush administration said enough is enough, and they ordered the capture of Noriega.
As president, I have no higher obligation than to safeguard the lives of American citizens. And that is why I directed our armed forces to protect the lives of American citizens in Panama and to bring General Noriega to justice in the United States.
You take the most powerful country on earth versus the Panama Defense Forces, so you can kind of guess how that went. It was a very short invasion.
The outcome was not seriously in doubt. The only real question was whether Noriega would be apprehended. He wasn't.
Noriega was a pretty slippery, elusive guy. He managed to slip out and end up in the Vatican embassy for a while.
The White House has put up a $1 million reward for information leading to his capture.
Ultimately, he did surrender to U.S. forces, and he was flown to Miami to face trial. His capture and ultimately his departure ushered in a new era of democracy in Panama. There has long been in Panama kind of a grudging relationship with the U.S., but I think most people would agree that getting Noriega out of there was a plus. In the United States, I think he's going to be remembered as this crazy tyrant the U.S. defeated. It did generate a lot of debate about U.S. power and sovereign nation, and weren't there other mechanisms to achieve this result other than an invasion of another nation? Manuel Noriega kind of laid down a marker for the United States. The invasion of Panama and his capture ultimately set the stage, I think, for future actions by the U.S. You know, the fact that there wasn't a backlash in the United States to this, that it was generally seen as the right thing to do, I think set the stage and set the tone that it was now possible for the U.S. to do that. When they felt like history was on its side, it was possible to go into another country and remove its dictator.